Now, how often must the lesson be learned? Go woke, go broke, yes. Now, I feel Disney's about to learn it all over again with the live-action remake of its classic cartoon, Snow White. Now, it's decided it needs to do this in a more modern way. So the German Snow White is now played by a Latina actress, Rachel Zegler. There is no Prince Charming, of course, because this Snow White makes her own way and no man may kiss a sleeping woman he doesn't know. And the famous seven dwarfs of the original, well, they of course have to go, or six of them anyway. Too much stereotyping, reckons Disney. And in their place are seven magical characters of various races and genders, very diverse. One even seems to need a walking stick, probably on the NDIS as well. So all that's wonderful. Joining me as on every Monday is writer and commentator Esther Krakue. Esther, lovely to see you again, but are you on board with this updating of Snow White?
Of course not. Now, I feel like as a huge Disney fan myself, a lot of the films and content that Disney has been coming out with lately have been a personal affront, an attack on my devotion to Disney films. It's important to note that even though Disney has confirmed that they have bizarrely cast a Latina actress to play Snow White, the pictures that were released originally by the Daily Mail from the film set in Bedfordshire here in the UK, a Disney spokesperson has said that those are not official images and those are not actually images from the film set. So we don't actually know if we're going to get Black, Asian and non-white dwarves or whatever sort of diversity box ticking characters they want to cast it as, but the studio has confirmed that there is actually no Prince Charming. Snow White is a Hispanic woman, and I find it very bizarre why they feel the need to remake these films instead of coming up with original films and then destroy them in this way and completely doctor them to resemble nothing like the original. I mean, they might as well save themselves the trouble and come up with a completely new storyline instead of destroying these classics in this way. But I'm not going to be surprised if this film tanks as well as the previous film, which was Mulan, which I'm still personally offended by in every way, shape and form. But it looks like they're going down the same route and they don't want to learn. And unfortunately, they're going to have to learn the hard way like Budweiser.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. It's interesting, how the Disney scrambled. They first said, oh, these photos are fake. And then they said, well, actually, one was a stand-in woman and it's not official photos. I think they're trying to give themselves leeway to change depending on which way the wind blows. Now, but it's interesting, Esther, that Disney is doing this while a very happily retro Barbie is being released, the movie starring Australian Margot Robbie. Or, I don't know, was Barbie always still a very modern woman? I don't know. You tell me.
Well, I mean, there's always been conversations about whether Barbie is a feminist icon or whether she's a modern woman. And the reality is she doesn't need to be any of those things. She's a pretty doll that the young girls like to play with. And, the people responsible for putting out the Barbie film understand that if they chose a transgender, overweight, one-legged Barbie, the film would tank before it was even released. So they stuck to the status quo, which is a very attractive young woman in the form of Margot Robbie. And they're understanding who their market is. And I'm personally going to see it. I'm dressing in all pink. I've bought a pink wig and I'm extremely excited. I'm not going to look forward to the Snow White film with every race and gender of seven dwarves out there.
Stop in on the show on your way to the movie, please. I want to see this. Now, Esther, gee, it's odd, Italy, I don't know what's in the water there, what's in the grappa or whatever, In Italy, a school cleaner puts his hand down the back of the underpants of a 7-year-old student, said it was a big joke, got charged with sexual assault. Now a judge has said, well, yes, it is a joke because he left his hand there for less than 10 seconds, which is victim then illustrated with this post to show a disgust. So it's not an assault if you grope for under 10 seconds, but it is if you're there for 11. I mean, that can't be right, can it?
Yes, the judge's analysis of the situation is very peculiar. I suspect he was trying to say that because it was under 10 seconds, the intent was not actually sexual assault, because obviously if you want to sexually assault someone, you really get in there and grope for a good 15 or 20 seconds. But the Italians have an interesting attitude towards women and sex. And, the former Italian Prime Minister Berlusconi was infamous for saying, promising a team that he had a busload full of prostitutes for them if they'd won the game. So, the Italians are very particular in how they approach things of this nature, should I say.
Well, I don't know, Esther. Do I need to warn you now? Don't go near Italy at all. I mean, what is it there? Have you noticed the difference in the culture that presents, that you think, well, of course an Italian judge would say this?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know. I think they have, quite an outdated attitude towards male and female intersexual dynamics, and they're not afraid to show it. The fact that a judge effectively said this was not sexual harassment because his hands was down her underpants for less than 10 seconds just kind of shows the attitude, the general social attitudes towards these sorts of situations. And it's quite frightening. Hopefully they do keep up with the 21st century, because I can't imagine that many cases like this sheds Italy in a very good light. But clearly there is some work that needs to be done here.
Well, yes. Meanwhile, the British judge would find it outrageous if you dared to talk to a woman for more than 10 seconds. It's just trying to. Honestly, the cultures are so different, Esther. But anyway, there you go. Is Italy the worst? Before I go, is Italy the worst you've come across?
I wouldn't say the worst. I mean, I'm pretty sure they're on par with, like, I would say the French and the Greeks. I lived in France, and they have similar attitudes. Well, some people have similar attitudes towards sort of intersexual dynamics. So I would say the UK is certainly an outlier in Europe in terms of our almost what they consider prudish attitudes towards how men and women interact with each other.
Good on you. Esther Krakue, okay, let's make it a date. On your way to the Barbie thing in your wig and pink, you're going to stop here and, we'll just shoot the breeze and pretend that, it's still the serious Esther Krakue under that wig. I can't wait. Thank you so much for your time.